on a road show, and put them up online for an auction, and auction them off. And a photographer friend who has been to this orphanage and taken some great pictures from while in Rwanda, he's going to also turn some of those original pieces of art now into some lithographs that can also be sold to help raise money, because they really need ongoing funding. There's barely any walls. There's no bedding. Half of those kids do live outside of the orphanage, but come there every day for their food because the families that they given them to can't afford to feed them. So there's always an ongoing huge need for these kids to and the orphanage, to rebuild itself. It came out of the 84, 85 genocide. A lot of the Emmanuel, who is one of the partners who started the orphanage in 95, was a child of the genocide and an orphan himself. And so some of these kids, they range in age from 2 to around 18. Some have AIDS, some don't. But all are, products of that war.
Well, that's really commendable, and it's interesting that you're being involved in things right now that obviously requires funding. People in general, I'm noticing that having a tough time making it financially. How do you deal with that in your own business? Maybe that's coaching or everything else that you
well, in this particular one, if I went into a church or I went into a group of people and I asked the high school students, can you give me $1 a month? Just give me $1. And, you just need like $25 a month. And so if it takes 25 people instead of one person to give $25 a month, that's okay, right? So I just need to reach more people to get the same amount of money that's going to help those kids. In my own practice, what I like to do, and what I do, you'll see on my website, is I ask people to donate what they thought, was the value and the worth of the coaching that they got. I don't do that in corporate coaching, but I certainly do that in life coaching.
Right. I actually noticed that on your website, and I think that's a great idea. So people have an option based on the range that you present there, so they can give anywhere from $25 to $500.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So, by the way, I just want to make sure we tell our listeners that we're going to give away a free book called The Midlife Mojo, How to Get Through the Midlife Crisis and Emerge as Your True Self, written by no one other than the unstoppable Coach Frankie. So we're going to do that in the second half of the show. So the second caller after, let's see, that would be 4:30 Eastern Time. The second caller that calls in on our VIP hotline at 303-872-0503 will win that book.
Fantastic. So
since we're talking about since we're talking about the book, I already gone through my midlife crisis, but tell us a little bit about the book. Why did you write it, and what is it that people are going to get when they read it?
Well, I'll tell you what they're going to get first, and then I'll tell you why I wrote it. It's my belief that the midlife crisis is a time of metamorphosis for us. It's a time that we transform and transition from what I call our social life self to our true self, the person that we came here to be. So usually change happens in chaos, and because we reach this state in midlife where we kind of look around, and it's a waking up period, and that's why the crisis occurs. But we're looking around and saying, okay, I've done what I came here to do, perhaps. I've achieved my goals that I set out for myself, and I'm not happy. So what's next? If I'm not happy being as rich as I can and working as hard as I can and being married to the person I'm married to, all of those things, then where can I be happy? How can I be happy? And sometimes it takes this crisis to be able to break out of that life, that we made for ourselves and move on to the next one. Because people aren't letting us go. And so it's kind of that wake-up call. I found